Welcome to EntrePods, the most cutting-edge podcast for entrepreneurs and investors. We answer the hottest question today. So now what? We are radically civilized with a focus on durable solutions that make the most positive impacts in your business, financial, personal, and community life. The world right now belongs to entrepreneurs. Today, we'll show you through our expert conversations that matter, the limitless opportunities you have right now to live the life of your dreams. The best version of you and your business starts now. Welcome to EntrePods.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to EntrePods. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today, I've got Jennifer as our host. And of course, I'm Tammy Geerling, the co-host. And I know you haven't seen me in a while. So hello again. I've resurfaced. I'm still here. We have an amazing guest. So let me go ahead and turn it over to my co-host, Jennifer, to get us started. Hey, Jennifer.
Hey, Tammy. I'm so glad Tammy's here today. And we have a great guest today, EntrePods. We are so excited to welcome this wonderful female entrepreneur. She hails from San Francisco, which is a great town I've been to. She's married with 2 kids there. And she's actually lived in some of the hottest cities in the U.S. She's lived in California, New York City, Las Vegas, Boston. And her background is design, architectural design, interior design, branding, and now she works with consulting and she helps people get more confidence in what we're doing. So I am very excited to talk to her because we all need confidence. We're coming out of lockdown. It's time to shave everything and stop looking like Yetis and get back out into the world. So let us give a great welcome to Christine Woodward, and she's with 19thandco.com. Hello, Christine. Welcome.
Hi, Jennifer. Hi, Tammy. So nice to see you guys and meet you. Thank you so much for that shout out. And so funny that you relate it back to shaving as the opening to us getting back out into the world. I think that's a funny analogy to draw from our COVID hibernation.
Yeah, I was watching it was a skit, on TikTok or something like that. And like the people were at their first party, and I guess they were in a heavy lockdown area and they were just like, how do we talk to each other? And they just look like, like these frightened woodland creatures, and I thought, wow, I'm in Texas. So we've been going out and doing that. We're not going to have that problem here, but it's still, I talked to someone who was talking about their family in Wales. And it's crazy over there right now. They can't go within so many feet outside of their home, or they will get a $500 fine. And then if they are caught out again, and the neighbors are being encouraged to snitch on each other, and it can go up to $5,000, and then they pick them up and take them to jail. And she was actually talking to her brother, and they were talking about their other brother, and he was like, yeah, it's been a year and a half since we've seen each other. It's like, how's that even going to be? And I'm like, man, the psychological thing.
No kidding.
Yeah. And there was a whole report on that. The NHIS has come out and stated that we put very serious messaging out. And we did it with the government for basically crowd control messaging, which is basically PSYOPs. Right. But we think that we've overstepped it because people are now being seen for mental and emotional issues from being too terrified to go back. Like they're like, okay, so eventually you'll have to take off your mask, and people are like resisting everything now. Right. And it's because basically they mind controlled people too much.
Right. Which is a nice segue into confidence, because that is what we are lacking in even just living our lives.
Yes. Yeah. So tell me about that. So you have a very unique thing that you're helping people with, and it is so needed. It's needed now more than ever. So tell me a little bit about what you're doing right now and how you're approaching these very complicated and multifaceted issues.
Yeah, sure. No, great question. And it is just a perfect time for it. So really what we're doing is training confidence. And I think just the idea that there is a training program for confidence is all I want to share. Whether you join and come onto the journey with us or not, it's the idea that you can be aware of the fact that confidence is a skill. Confidence is something that you can acquire. Confidence is just sitting there waiting for you to snatch it up and start using it. The more you use it, the more it breeds more confidence. And that is all I want to say. It's just plain and simple. This idea that confidence is, innate in some people, it's born in some people, or I don't have it here, I don't have it there, and I won't have it. Yes, some people do have chemical genetics that they are built with just more confidence at the womb. Absolutely, that is the case. But that's a small, limited amount. The rest of it is something that we can just train into ourselves. And the more you show up for yourself, the more you will breed that confidence. And I can't tell you how much. It's like a layer cake. You just keep going and your confidence gets higher and higher. And again, it is this idea that it is a skill. And I speak specifically to women primarily because women tend to not have that natural tendency to go out and kind of take the bull by its horns or stick your neck out there, right? Just even those visualizations are something that aren't equated with women. And I kind of give two examples too, if you don't mind. One is, you're in a conference room and it's this idea that when opportunity arises, men just raise their hand pretty much prematurely and just think like, oh yeah, I want an opportunity. Absolutely. And they may not even be ready for it. That doesn't even cross their mind. Whereas women are thinking, oh, can I actually do this? Oh, just kidding. I'm going to keep my hand down until I'm ready. Right. Mm-hmm. That's a prime example. Another is when you're going out and looking for a job. And this is perfect for right now because a lot of people are looking for jobs, or at least they will once unemployment maybe taps out. But it's this idea that you go onto a job posting and there's, that standard 10 bullets of criteria that you need to maybe satisfy. A man will feel like he just needs to satisfy maybe 2, 3 of those bullet points and he starts to apply. A woman feels she needs to apply. She needs to satisfy 6, 8 of those bullet points before she feels she can apply. And that's actually research backed. And of course I need to actually find that and cite that, but that is true. It is so, I can't even tell you how many people I've hired for, how many of our clients that I've hired for, and the women that apply are so hesitant. They literally send an email saying, are you still looking? Can I send you my resume? And this is from a job posting. I mean, it's just absurd. Whereas men are just out there, right? It's
no. I worked in staffing and recruitment. In fact, that's my background. And okay. And so before I started crisis intervention consulting, that happened all the time. Right. Women were very hesitant to own their wins because they didn't want to appear to be a witch with the B word, right?
Yes.
Like I don't want to come off like that. Yes, you're bragging or you're ridiculous. And unfortunately, that's something that we really have to push back on. No, you can. That's
not bragging.
No, it's not. It's just, I'm really good at this. And I'm happy to say that I'm really good at this. There's a difference between men who are just positive about who they are and men who are braggarts. And it's the same with women. But women are very conditioned to own, like there is a great TikTok trend. I know I go back to TikTok a lot, but there's a good trend on there and it's a women, there's a thing going. So what would you it's a guy going, so on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you describe yourself? A 10. Oh, okay. No, maybe you don't understand. So 10 is the highest you can be. What would you describe yourself? A 10? Like she was just a 10. And the thing is that the pushback on that, like that is ridiculous and blah. Well, why not? Why shouldn't you view yourself as a 10? There's somebody out there that thinks that you're a 10. There's probably somebody out there that thinks you're a 0 too. Who cares? What they think about you is none of your business. You're a 10.
Yes. And I have to say too, just in her response saying she's a 10 outright like that, if a man did that, he probably would be classified as a bit of a, I don't even want to say it, but but I think there's an art to it. And I think as women, we're swinging the pendulum the other way so far that we might be considered one of those also. Right. But there's an art to it. And there's books out there. And that's another thing I want to make women aware of, the fact that there's this art to bragging. So there's a book by Peggy Klaus, who's an author out of Berkeley, California. And it's Brag, ! The art of tooting your own horn. And it's this idea, very much like the idea that you can acquire confidence. It's just the idea of bragging. There's just a good way of doing it. And I can't tell you how many men I've come across that know how to brag so covertly, but that's what we're trying to do here. That is what we should be own up to, our wins. Exactly. But there's really just a way to do it that we need to practice.
I think we call it, oh, well, that's an interesting humble brag. That's when you do it like, I know I was doing this and I don't know, the Hummer or something like that. They talk, they slip the car in or whatever, but it's just a way to very covertly, put the brag in.
But that is what men do. Yes. And it's not a brag. It really is just trying to shed light on who you are. Maybe not needing to drop the name of your car in, but who I mean, this is what men do. This is how men climb ladders. For us as women to think of that anything less than strategic would be, we're only hurting ourselves. And this is how the gender gap even exists. Why the gender gap even exists, because we're not playing by the same rules. Men are playing by completely different rules. As soon as women try to apply that to their lives, they think it's bragging. They think it's, I mean, you just name it, the list goes on. But it is the game that needs to be played. And if you don't play it, that is how the gender gap exists and why it will get wider.
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely agree with you, because again, there's this idea that somehow by being a shiny light, you're somehow dulling the light of everybody else.
Right.
And
No,
that's not how it works.
a rising tide lifts all boats. Yes.
Very much so. So it's, you know, it's another thing to say, oh, I met this great person and it was just such an incredible experience for me and blah, blah, blah. And then they have the negative, that name dropping, right? For every shiny light scenario, you'll have someone that comes up with some negative term. For example, humble brag. That guy was probably just talking about his life, right? This is my car. I like my car. This is my thing. This is my boat, or this is my house, or this is the event I got to go to. And so they're talking about it. Oh, way to humble brag. Because if people being bright and shiny makes you feel bad about yourself, that's on you.
Right. That means you're not pushing yourself.
That's right. That's on you.
In fact, and in fact, too, I tend to use envy or jealousy as my barometer for, well, interesting. I'm probably envious of that because I want that. And so because someone else might have something else that another might envy, but I don't, I think it's just this wonderful, you can spin it and see it as a positive, as a symptom for something that you want. And so if that's the case, go work for it. Right.
Right. And so you actually work specifically with confidence, and you have an entire confidence training there at 19th & Co., right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's actually under the umbrella of the Judy Project.
Okay.
So 19th & Co. is our consultancy, which we work with men and women, business owners, really doing, helping them to move their business along. 19th & Co. has the Judy Project, which is the confidence training. And that really came from all the work I've done with my consultant or with my clients in the consultancy, because at the heart of everything that every one of my clients needs is confidence. And that I would say is 90% of, I would say, goes toward my female clients. Anything that they want to do, they're almost just looking for that partner to push them toward the decision they had already made for themselves, but couldn't really stick their neck out there to do so. For a lot of reasons too, not necessarily a lack of confidence. They built this business on their back and, they're a little nervous about tipping the boat or rocking the boat. But it really is, it's that mixed with, which is after the name of the project, Judy, my mother-in-law, Judy, and my mom, Diana. So it's the first two letters of both their names, because they embodied the two elements that create confidence, and that is thoughts and action. And my mother-in-law was thoughts. She was a PhD, private practicing psychologist who passed away last summer. And that was kind of my tipping point when I realized I really wanted to kind of really take this on the road and help women from, elementary school to senior care living facilities, to help women understand that they can have the confidence they've always seen in other women and thought that they were jealous of. And again, even if it wasn't maybe done in the most artful way, it's still confidence. Yeah.
And so the Judy Project, just for guys,
please,
people in the car, it's JUDI, like Judy, JU, and then Diana, DI. So JUDI project.com with that. And so going back to confidence being at the root of it, for some reason, for the last 2 years, I've been hearing, well, I'm dealing with imposter syndrome.
I'm glad you bring that up. That is absolutely in our training. And in fact, in the training, I speak about how imposter syndrome, so very much like what I spoke about the other topic, envy and jealousy being a symptom and something to pay attention to, as opposed to just thinking, oh, I'm just jealous. Use it to your benefit. Imposter syndrome is exactly the same way. If you are not experiencing some imposter syndrome, you're actually not pushing yourself. Too much imposter syndrome, yes, you're going to be paralyzed. That's not the point where we want to get you to. But you should absolutely be experiencing some imposter syndrome, because imposter syndrome comes from you pushing yourself and being uncomfortable and going through this discomfort space, right? If you're not doing that, then you're in your comfort zone and too often and never pushing yourself. So a good healthy amount of imposter syndrome is what we're looking for.
Yeah, and especially for those of you who are listening that are trying to coach or educate or consult other people, you're in an education sphere specifically, and you don't have to be 50 steps ahead of someone. You really just have to be one step ahead and then holding them through the process. So many times if you get a new client and you're not completely familiar with everything that they have, you just need to start learning, be a curious educator and do the step ahead. You know where they're supposed to go. And so you have your own, if you're a good coach, I'm assuming you're all great coaches and great educators. So you have the process. You just need to follow it a step ahead. And I found that sometimes it's when I was just a step ahead, I actually made the biggest breakthroughs the clients made their biggest breakthroughs because I was having very new knowledge coming in that was very timely. I was able to pass on to them. So, and going back to imposter syndrome, it's when people get to a thing that they go, wow, I'm saying all these things about myself and I wrote this book and I'm saying that I'm like this expert, but am I really, because I've got this problem or, my credit isn't the best because I went through this divorce. And then before you know it, they are trying to self-erase all of their wonderful wins that they've ever made to get them to that point because they're not perfect. Well, nobody is, so.
Yes. I like the analogy you give, or the term of self-erase. I think that's a really, really good way of putting it, that is absolutely what's happening when we go through that laundry list of things where we say we aren't, right? And I think oftentimes I give my clients an analogy too, or an example actually that I've lived through. So these are, clients, men, women, 50, 60, 70 years old, been in their business. I mean, rock stars, having started their business from nothing. And I tell them the analogy, the example that I lived through, which was being a tutor at Harvard. So in the dorms, and tutoring sophomores, because they are in freshman dorms. And at this point, they're in sophomore dorms. And I can't tell you, having not come from an Ivy League pedigree background at all. I went to City College. I mean, I worked my way through the ranks to now be at Johns Hopkins MBA. I mean, so hearing these stories of Ivy League, undergrads, this background that I always wish I had. And guess what? They all said, I slipped through the academic, the acceptance crack, right? The admissions crack, excuse me, that's what I was getting at. I slipped through the admissions crack independently. While one-on-one meetings, I had about 9 out of 10 of the mentees that I was mentoring say this. And these are individuals who in their own right got into Harvard. You don't think
and
of
they
that.
didn't think they were good enough. 9 out of 10.
Yep. Yeah. And they come
what, that is amazing to know. And I think I'm going to blame social media. I want to
right.
I like to blame social media on that because, they're, Instagram and all these things are showing these very unrealistic people that, are just so polished because every filter's been applied, every backdrop, no, they're not really in Fiji right now. They're in their backyard. Okay. But
yes.
you
they don't
know
have
that.
These doughy eyes
yes.
with these high cheekbones.
I know. I was laughing with someone. I was like, look, guys, if I ever go off the face of the planet, no one could find me on the milk box because they'll be like, does she really have those deer horns on her head and that little deer nose? Like, I love those filters that take you to an animal, they'll never find me. Right. But it's all ridiculous. Like that, you can know is not the same person, but it's amazing how many are just not. But so you're seeing these very polished women and usually women are the worst, I think, at it. And they're in exotic locations and they're talking about their degrees. And I did this and this and this and this. And you're just like, womp, womp, or they invent these backgrounds. So I was at a charity function and it was junior high and I had, come up with a new sock that wicked or, whatever. And half of that's not even really true, but, you're just like, wow, I didn't come up with some revolutionary sock when I was 10. How did I make it to Harvard?
Right. Yes. And making up stories, definitely. I don't know how we can compete with that. But I think what I do want to say too, is you mentioned how women are the worst with each other. Abby Wambach, so the gold medalist soccer player, she has a book. It's just back there. I can't reach it right now, but it's called Wolfpack. And I highly recommend for every woman to read that because it should be absolutely a new really new bylaws by which we treat each other. So this idea when someone makes a goal, right? Even if you're bragging that you made a goal, instead of putting the other person down that they bragged they made a goal, point to them and be like, you're a badass, way to go. And we should all be pointing to each other and then saying also, yeah, but I couldn't have made that goal without you, and you, pointing back to your inner circle that actually helped you to get there. And I think there's just, and this kind of ties back to, the way to brag. It ties back to this art and this way of communicating, both with others in terms of sharing your accomplishments, as opposed to humble bragging, or even, just us as a community as women. And it's reinventing this new way that we communicate. And I think that's at the heart of why we can't back each other and why we should be backing each other.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up. And I love that book. Again, that was Wolfpack. And I'm going to definitely read it because I'm consistently amazed. And I think it's an age thing too. Once you get past like 30s and 40s, women are much more aware of these sabotaging behaviors to one another and going, hey, why are we doing that? We need to stop that. Let's be together. And, I guess it's a competitive, and it's also a biological imperative. There is certain competition when you're younger. We're competing, men are competing. We're very competitive there, but we need to break through some of those things, especially in business, because men won't do that. Men in sports, they are amazing to one another, slapping each other's butts. They're doing this and they don't even like each other, right? They'll punch each other in the face and then they'll go out and get a beer. And then they're best friends for the last 10 years. And you're like, yeah, that's so different than women, but we can still learn from that. And so I think the idea of there is some demonizing of men that goes around, we need to stop that. And we need to say, but wait a minute, some of these things are positive and some of these things do work. What can we learn? It's not like men aren't learning from women. They are. There are so many wonderful things about us that they love and learn.
Absolutely. We make better CEOs. The research is out. Okay. But that doesn't even need to be, reiterated. Of course, they need to make some space at the table, or we need to build a new table. But I do have to say too, the Gentlemen's Club, they're the ones saying like, oh, I've got a buddy, I'll give him the job, right? It's this idea that they're perpetuating this ladder that they're filling up with just men. And it's because they're following these rules, I don't think maliciously keep women out. It's just because we're not playing the game and we're not even realizing those are the rules.
Right. I don't believe it's malicious. And I'm a big fan of building our own table too. Yeah. And and just thinking of this as something positive, we need to treat each other with the same spectrum, the same fairness. If a woman goes off the rails, I will point it out and go, wow, you really need to get it back in track. Men will do the same thing. Like, gee, Bob, that wasn't right. Like, I'm not going to hang out with you. You just stole from the company. I'm not going to 100% back everybody, even if they're doing completely malignant behavior. You're going to get treated equally with everyone else. And I think the more that we push these things of ethical entrepreneurship, just like what you're talking about, everything that what you're talking about, it's going to, Me Too is going to be just so far behind. We'll be like, remember when that happened? And here we are today, and it's going to be so much healthier. But we had to go through some really, you had Me Too, and then you had a blowback to that as well, with people like, well, yeah, no, I'm never going to hire a woman again. And now we're going to go back from that, and we're going to have to come to a common ground. It did have to go through this very unstable, wavering period, because that's what happens when you have big change or your big problem. But now it can be very positive. We don't have to stay in that badness anymore. No. So what do you, so before we go, I want to talk about that too. So now we're coming out of Me Too, and I feel like it went one way and then another way. And now we're going to have to forge ahead because the whole world changed. So it's wiped the slate in many ways. So we get this incredible opportunity. So for someone who is struggling right now with their confidence, what are some quick tips that you can give them just that they can enact in the next month or the next week? If they're like, yeah, this is a problem, I'm going to start interviewing, or I'm going to go and ask for that raise despite the fact that everything's happened, or I'm going to do it. I'm going to start my own company, whatever it is. Do you have any tips for them?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think the first thing I would say is take inventory of what your current thought process is. So the first things that you think of when you want to go out and do X. So whatever that X is, what's the thought processes that happen? I'll guarantee there's some sabotaging in there, and that's what you need to write down. then you need to reframe those and think about how you are the person for that. You are the right person for it, and how you can absolutely make that happen. And I know this all sounds silly and it feels like a lie and you're just glossing over things, but you need to just go with it, and you need to own that it's going to feel very uncomfortable to take on this new frame of mind. So you're really trying to do a shift in your mindset. Then the next thing I would say too is identifying what's that big idea. And there isn't just one, but let's just think about the one that's at the most forefront of your mind. And it's the one you need to dust off, because guarantee it's been sitting there for a while. And you need to take that, use this new, reframed mindset that's a little bit more positive and less sabotaging, and apply it to that one big idea and start to move forward on that. And, there's a ton of books out there, Confidence Code, wonderful books on confidence, but so many times their formula is really taking your thoughts plus confidence, then you can take action. And we actually put that on its head. It's really your thoughts, then taking action, and in all its discomfort builds confidence. And then it's that revolution that you continue to breathe that confidence. And it would be those steps that I would really encourage individuals to just really inventory, and then find some people in your life that, because we are who we hang out with, let's be real. We teach it to our kids, but we, as adults, absolutely. So if you don't have those people in your life that are pushing you to think about that big idea and wanting you to help, move you toward that, try to find some other outlets for that, some networking groups of similar like-minded people. And that makes a huge impression on one's life, huge. And that is actually a lot of what I do for my clients. I am that network for them. I am the one saying they're a badass, pushing themselves. And I'm not lying. I'm making a list and telling them about all their accomplishments and why they are where they are now and why we can get them to their next big dream, which is a huge, sky in the pie, what we shoot for. And we make it every time. So those would be some tips I would certainly start to instate in one's life.
Well, I love it. And I agree wholeheartedly with those tips. And again, what she's talking about is not blowing smoke up your ass for entrepreneurs. No. What she's doing is like really working with you. By the time most people get to engaging with someone like Christine, they already know that there's something there. There is some burning desire there, and they just don't really know how to get it out or get it to the next path. So that already has been taken, because it's kind of attraction and repelling. You know what I mean? Yeah. People who are real BS probably aren't going to talk to Christine. You know why? Because Christine will look through their BS and she won't work with them. And that's how it works to get to that next level. But don't go it alone. You don't have to go it alone at all. There's somebody that can help you and grab your hand and say, okay, I got you. You got to do all the work, but I can help, and I can light that path away so you can see much more clearly the more positive little steps to go ahead of you. So
and I would say too, this goes for people who are wanting to launch something brand new and take a leap, or a leap in their existing business too. And both of those are just as scary, for sure. So
absolutely
runs a spectrum.
Yeah, it does. Okay, guys, so we're getting to the end. We've been talking to Christine Woodward. If you would like to learn more about Christine and her confidence project, just go to Judy Project, JUDI project.com, or you can always visit her at 19th & Co. And if you enjoyed this, please don't forget to give us a 5-star and like, comment, and share. And now I will get this over to Tammy, and Tammy, take us away. And I've missed you.
Thank you so much again, Christine. That conversation between the two of you and Jennifer, I was just like riveted. I want more. I want you back on the show again, because we definitely could continue that. I think we could have made this an entire hour discussion. So thank you so much for being with us. Everyone, I will have Christine's information, exactly how to get to her, in the show notes for this one. So, and as always, thank you so much for listening to us. Like Jennifer said, give us a 5-star. We love those. And you can find us on any listening platform. We are EntrePods, and we are on all social media networks. We are at EntrePods. So thank you again, and have a wonderful day. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening, and please go give us a 5-star rating on your preferred listening platform if you enjoyed the show. This helps us reach more listeners like you and keep booking amazing guests. If you'd like to join our growing EntrePods community, want our social media links to like or share, or inquire about one-on-one strategy calls with our host Jennifer, please visit entrepods.com. See you next time, and here's to you and your best life imaginable.